What's going on, guys? Right, I'm a teacher in the house, and I am here with my high Sinnoh version of What If I Was in a Gen. We're looking at Gen 4 today, Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, specifically Platinum, mostly as I tend to look at the expanded versions more often than not, because the expanded versions often have more content in, but yeah. So this time round, we're in Generation 4, which is actually the era for me where I started to take competitive Pokemon a lot more seriously. We had a whole bunch of new items in the game that changed the competitive metagame. We had a whole bunch of new Pokemon, we had 107 in total. We had 113 new moves in the game, and 47 new abilities, and the removal of one, which was Cacophony, which is basically the same as Soundproof. It was what Xploud got originally, but it's now just Soundproof, so no matter anymore. But yeah, we had a lot of really cool stuff coming on in this gen, but Gen 4 for me, playing through the story, while there was quite a lot of cool points to it, there was a lot of really interesting and diverse areas that we can work with, and stuff like that. I felt like, especially in this gen playing through the game, that the gyms themselves were not particularly challenging. A lot of them only had like 3 Pokemon, and the later gyms only had 4, but even in those later gyms, they actually didn't have fully evolved Pokemon in them, which was bizarre because at the point in the game you get to, once you face the later gyms, nearly all of your Pokemon are going to be fully evolved, so it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Obviously, the champion, Cynthia, is one of the most powerful champions in Pokemon history, although she did get slightly nerfed in Platinum. She wasn't as strong compared to a Diamond and Pearl team. But yeah, nonetheless, this is a very, very interesting gen for competitive, but it also made the decision as to where I would put myself and who I would like to replace as kind of a difficult one. Because aside from 1 or 2 of the gyms, particularly the earlier gyms, I didn't really like a lot of the gyms at all, so there was so many different teams that I could have picked, and so many replacements I could have made. However, for me, the biggest offender for like really, really poor gym design for me is Snowpoint, the 7th gym, Candace's gym. It's a really, really cool gym. There's so many different ways you can play this gym, but it felt really bizarre to me. She only had 4 Pokemon for the 7th gym, which didn't make a lot of sense to me, and she had 2 not fully evolved Pokemon with Sneasel and Piloswine, both of which were possible to be fully evolved at the level they were at. They were in the level 40s, which is already low for a 7th gym as it is. But yeah, to not have fully evolved Pokemon to me seems somewhat egregious. But obviously that means with Snowpoint we have the Ice typing. We're still keeping the Ice typing, there's no point. Snowpoint is atop of a mountain which is hailing all the time. So no reason to change from the Ice typing at all. We're not creating a new character, we're replacing a character at this point. So it's definitely an interesting point to look at and an interesting discussion point. So I decided to rebrand this team pretty much as a Hail team, but with some slight little twists. So the first Pokemon we're actually going to talk about, you can see the stats already on the screen, is actually Frostlass. This was actually a Pokemon that Candace already had. You might notice on this team that there will be some familiar Pokemon on here, but they will be adjusted in almost every way. I will point out before I fully talk about the team, so I did not put any EV spreads on this, so I'm not running EVs or anything like that. Because it's a gym leader and it's not a competitive team, we're not necessarily too worried about EVs and being perfect. But I decided to try and make a team that was kind of annoying and definitely had a theme to it. So leading off with Frostlass, this was actually one of Candace's aces in her original team. Please note we're not looking at the rematch team, we're looking at the original gym team because you don't always have to do the rematches because they're post-game. But yeah, Frostlass with Snowcloak kind of seems a little bit odd. It's a pity it didn't get Snow Warning in this gen. I think it would be much better. It got Snow Warning in Gen 5. But nonetheless, the Sash lead set is actually still relatively solid. Spikes and Destiny Bond are really annoying. Spikes turn 1 is always a problem. Definitely sets up the entry hazards. Entry hazards can be really obnoxious, especially against a lot of things that you would bring to an ice gym, namely fire, or fighting, or steel, or rock. Spikes actually handles all of them, so Spikes is a very, very nice little entry hazard to have. Destiny Bond can take out a Pokemon at the same time as Frostlass. With Frostlass being relatively fast, it will outspeed a lot of the Pokemon. It's faster than things like Infernape naturally, so things like that can always play a factor. Icy Wind is nice for speed control, especially if you're trying to switch in a fast Pokemon on it, and Psychic is there mostly for fighting types, but It's there as a move of choice. I debated on Shadow Ball, but it doesn't really hit much that you'll bring into an Ice Gym, so I didn't feel like it was worth it. So we just put Psychic there for a little bit of coverage. Next up is also going to be a returning Pokemon from Candace's team, but better. Is going to be Abomasnow. This is going to be the Hail Setter. There isn't actually another Hail Setter in the game. The other Pokemon that got Snow Warning were later gens, so we didn't get it. So Abomasnow was the only one that had to stay on the team. We're running a mixed Life Orb set with Blizzard, Wood Hammer, Ice Shard, Earthquake. Blizzard is 100% accurate in Hail. For those who didn't know that, that's the reason why you run it. And especially with Abomasnow's solid special attack stat, it's absolutely worth using. Wood Hammer, of course, the stab move that hits the rock typing, getting especially hard. Ice Shard there just to pick off things. Obviously the Hail will do chip damage as well. And Earthquake's mostly there for fire type switch-ins. It does just make it a little bit harder. Obviously the game's AI is not perfect. It's not going to predict fire type switch-ins anyway. But nonetheless, the Earthquake is there just to give you something to think about and just make it a little bit trickier to beat. We are trying to make these a little bit more challenging, but a little bit better as well. My view on gyms is always that they should be challenging, that they shouldn't be easy to beat, especially when you're in the late game gyms, like the 7th gym and 8th gym. They shouldn't be that easy. But this thing's job's primary to set up the Hail. We've already seen Snowcloak on Frostlass. You'll see that ability quite a lot because Snowcloak raises evasion in Hail, so it makes it harder to hit the ice types, but it also makes the ice types hit a little bit harder as well. Alright, coming up next is going to be a Pokemon that is bizarre to me, that is not on Candace's original team, and that is Glaceon. Glaceon for me is a fantastic Pokemon. It's a very, very strong special attacking one with a decent defensive stat to boot. Unfortunately, Ice type is a really, really garbage typing. It has no resistances, has no immunities, so it is really, really obnoxious to face. But nonetheless, Choice Specs is disgusting. It hits like a truck. Blizzard, Shadow Ball, Hidden Power, Ground, of course, for fire types. It doesn't get any other ground coverage moves, doesn't get Earth Power or anything like that. And Ice Beam, just in case we're not in Hail. Which obviously most likely we will be in Hail, but you never quite know. But yeah, nonetheless, this thing is going to hit very hard. It's going to hit you on the special side. Obviously, Abomasnow is largely going to hit you on the physical side, so having that big special attacking power is always nice, gives you a better, well-rounded team, makes it a little bit more challenging to beat, and makes your opponent have to prep, which is something that you should do in my opinion. So yeah, Glaceon forces prep, really, really cool Pokemon, definitely really, really like it. And so I'm really happy to have it on the team. Plus, of course, Glaceon was introduced in this generation, so it makes sense that if you have a type gym, that you actually bring the evolution. You know, Espeon, Espeon and Umbreon both had appearances in Generation 2. I don't remember if Leafeon was in the Grass Gym. I don't think it was. But, you know, that should have been a thing as well. So, yeah, definitely something that I think we should absolutely look at. Now, the last two Pokemon are actually evolved Pokemon from Candace's original team. The first one being Mamoswine, of course. Mamoswine is really, really strong. I really like having it on a late game team. Obviously, with that ground typing as well, it makes it much harder to switch into. This thing has a fantastic move pool, so it makes it a really, really strong wall breaker. And it also has access to Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock, more entry hazards, can definitely be very annoying. These hazards can rack up. Obviously, Defog did exist in Generation 4. It was when it was introduced, so it could force you to bring Defog. You know, Defog was not considered popular in Gen 4 because of the stupid map where you had to run it. Otherwise, you had like such a big miss chance to miss all your moves. It's kind of stupid, but this gives Defog some purpose in the playthrough. Makes you think about it and gives Defog a bit of relevancy. Having spikes on the Frostlass and Stealth Rock on the Mamoswine definitely causes issues. Of course, unfortunately, this thing doesn't have Thick Fat because Thick Fat was introduced in later gens. It was not in Generation 4, so we have to run Snowcloak instead. Oblivious is not that good an ability, unfortunately, so we're running Snowcloak again. That evasion, very, very annoying, but Earthquake Stone Edge is fantastic coverage with Ice Shard paired up for a little bit of damage and picking off potential with that Life Orb recoil. Very, very strong, really worth having, and does make those fire types have something to think about. And last but by no means least is one of the best late game cleaners in Gen 4, and that's Weavile. This thing is still a very, very good late game cleaner even in today's games. But yeah, Weavile with Expert Belt, because Life Orb, too many Life Orb setters is actually not that worth it. Pressure is a very, very nice ability. PP stalling is disgusting at the best of times. But yeah, running Sword Stance, Night Slash, Ice Shard, and Low Kick. Night Slash and Ice Shard, really, really good stabs. And Low Kick is there for the steals. Definitely worth bringing. You will have steel Pokemon by that time anyway. There's quite a few steel types present in Gen 4, so it wouldn't be too surprising to bring it. But this is always that annoying mon if you're just running low. You know, if you're at that last Pokemon stage, you've only got Pokemon that are easily picked off by Ice Shard. Having that Expert Belt that will hit for super effective damage, more power of course, but yeah, I debated Life Orb on this as well, but having Life Orb on Abomasnow and Mamoswine didn't make a lot of sense to me, so I decided just to keep the Expert Belt, just for a little bit of power output. But yeah, either way, that's a pretty fun team. It's a pretty fire team. It definitely hits very, very strong, so it's always a pressure point. It does make these gyms a little bit more difficult, and that's certainly worth playing against for me. But either way, that's going to be my team. What would you choose for your team if you don't agree with me? Definitely let me know. What would you change in Gen 4? There's quite a few gyms that I had a hard time thinking of changing, but this is what I went with. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Rybombi Teacher. I'm your coach of the Raw Bomber for Bombies. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.